So in this video we're going to be looking at 5 common mistakes that beginners make in the game of pool. Now these are things that come up all the time. I see lots of amateurs, players new to the game making these mistakes, and they're mistakes that I made myself when I started out. So we're just going to play a little game and then talk these things through as they come up. So the very first thing that you see a lot is players just taking the shot in front of them. What do I mean by that? It's not a great example here, but say for example, say we ended up somewhere like this. They will look for the easiest pot. Is there a ball near a pocket? Yep, there's a yellow hanging over the middle here. I'm straight onto it, I can't miss. Let's take that ball. So they get down, play that shot. Now what? Okay, I'm yellows, I've potted a yellow, and I haven't left myself a single pot. All of these 3 balls are in each other's way. Can't pot these balls to here, can't get to that ball. And that's because I didn't even look at where everything else was. We're just purely focused on the pot. I didn't try to control the cue ball, move it to somewhere. If I'd have screwed back a little bit, I might have had a shot down to this ball over here. It may even have been that that wasn't the best ball to play. There might have been another ball I could have played first that maybe would have split these balls up. Maybe even going for the other colour. I didn't even consider any of those options. So you have to think about what is next. The ultimate goal in this game is to be good enough to pot all of your balls in one go and then the black and beat your opponent without them taking a shot. And whilst that's a long way off for a lot of beginners and might seem like a stretch, you've got to start somewhere, and you may not be able to plan 5, 6, 7 shots ahead, but you've got to think about the next one at the very least. So always try to think what's next. Don't just pot the ball in front of you. Even if you're not great at controlling the cue ball, try and at least think about, what am I going to do after this shot? So that's the first thing. Second thing, so let's say we'd potted that ball and we end up somewhere like this. So we then got a long shot on this yellow to the corner. So this is something else that you will see a lot. Now, okay, I potted that ball, but you'll notice how hard I played it. Did I need to play it that hard? I've just not really got in position. Okay, I'm on that ball next. And I struck it true enough that it went in the heart of the pocket. But what if I'm slightly out? What if I clip that jaw or that jaw? Let's try and clip this jaw here, playing it at that pace. Okay, it wasn't very accurate and didn't clip that jaw, but it demonstrates something else that happens when you play at that pace and you miss. Look how many balls moved after that shot. So if you had got any sort of plan of what you were going to do next, it's probably changed by the time you come to the table because you've moved so many balls about. If you're a little bit closer, I actually missed the pocket there instead of hitting the jaw. So let's try and actually clip the jaw. And you see the ball rattles and doesn't drop in. Because of the shape of these pockets on the English pool table, the angles that these are, if you hit these jaws, they're facing out slightly from the pocket. So they're going to send the ball back into the other jaw and it's going to rattle and eventually will come back out, or at least stay there. If you hit the ball soft enough, you can hit these jaws and the pocket will accept the ball. So it's not that you can't hit a jaw on pot ball. If you do it gently, you can hit the jaw and the ball drops in fine. So I missed by as much on that shot as I did when I hit it hard, but because it was gentle, it dropped in. And there's just no need to hit the ball that hard. It just makes things more difficult. The other thing that it does is when you are actually cueing the ball, the harder you hit things, the more your cue action is likely to be out of shape, and you're not likely to be as accurate as when you do things slowly. So don't hit the ball so hard. There is no need to. The majority of the time, unless you need to travel a long way around the table, and these are fairly small tables, it's not really needed that much. The cue ball is light, so it's easy to get lots of action on it. You don't need to hit the ball that hard. Give the pocket every chance of letting the ball drop. So following on from that, as well as hitting the ball too hard, you need to think about going too far. And what I mean by that is like the cue ball. So say we were on this pot here, for example. You might think, okay, naturally the cue ball is going to be going over this direction. So let's go into that cushion off there, over here, off this cushion, and we'll be on this ball over here. Okay, we didn't quite get the path we were looking for, so that's one thing. But also, it's not really ended up, because it's travelled over such a distance, there's a lot of room for that to go wrong. And the further this ball travels, the harder it is to predict exactly where it's going to end up. The less distance it has to travel, the more accurate we can be. If you're only moving it 6 inches, if you're half out, you're only going to be 3 inches out from where you want it to be. If you're travelling 7 foot, you might be a whole foot out of position. And there's a lot of difference in that. So whenever you can, whenever possible, try not to go too far with this ball. So if you've got something else nearby, if you've got linking balls, if there's a ball there, rather than trying to go all the way from this ball to a ball at this end of the table, just pot that ball and leave yourself on something easy without having to travel too far. Okay, we've then got to do something from here, but wherever you can, try not to move this too far, and the more in control of it you'll be. The next thing that I want to talk about is, it goes with both those things again, especially hitting the ball hard, is you'll see a lot of players, particularly on long shots again, get down and trying to pot this ball into the corner here, and they will miss it like that. And if you're watching closely, the reason I missed that, was it because I was aiming in the wrong place in the first place? No, I lined it up, aimed in the correct place. The reason I missed it is because although I was in the correct place here and aiming correctly, as I took the shot, I stood up and I moved. And as soon as you move, things are going to change. You might be aiming in the right place to start with, but as you move, you might cue across the ball. Your body's moving around, your head's moving around. You're going to miss. And you'll see people sort of trying to steer a ball in. They'll sort of try and will that ball into that pocket by moving their body. And it's just not going to help you at all. What you want to be doing whenever you take a shot is stay as still as possible. If you don't need to get out the way, so if you're not playing something in tight where the cue ball is going to bounce back, try to stay down at the table until the shot's finished, as long as you don't need to move out the way of the ball. So what I mean is, if you're getting down, get down and aim. When you take the shot, stay there until everything's finished. I said, unless that ball's going to come back across your cue, then get out the way. But the longer you can stay there, that will mean that you're definitely staying still whilst you're taking the shot. So even on little short shots, get down and try and stay in position to make sure that you're not moving when you're doing it. As I say, the only time you might want to do it is if you were screwing back or something, for example. So if I'm screwing a ball back, I might want to get up, but even there, you can usually stay still as long as it's not coming straight back at you. So keep still when you take the shot. Try not to move around. And you see a lot of amateurs, all sorts of movement that brings bad things into their game. Now, the final thing, and this might sound a bit of a silly one, but it would come up a lot when I started playing in sort of lower leagues, and you've got a lot of players that are just sort of playing for fun. Nobody really knows what they're doing. And you'd hear a lot of people saying, who's winning? Halfway through a game, who's ahead? Oh, they've only got 2 balls left, so they're winning, they've still got all 6 left and whatever. And you see it a lot. And the thing is that in the game of pool, all that really matters is who pots that. It doesn't matter how many balls are left on the table. The person who pots the black is the winner. It's not like a game of football where you can win 6-1. You either win or you lose. And people will be, who are worrying about how many balls are left on the table, it's irrelevant. And I'll try and show you why. So, say for example, where the yellow players hit. So, we start potting some balls. And we might be thinking about what we're doing. We might be getting some nice positions. The red players watching thinking, oh God, I'm losing, they're potting more balls than me. They're still at the table. They're going through, clearing things up. The red player's worrying and his teammates saying, oh, you're losing, they're going to beat you here. And then they miss something. So you're a long way behind, right? You've got loads of balls left. They've only got 2 balls left in the black, so they must be winning. Not at all, because the game's not over until that black ball's potted. And what you'll see a lot with beginners is, say that had ended up here, they'll think, right, I've got a pot of balls, so I'm not 7 balls, so they'll come in straight away and just, yes, I've potted a ball, I'm not going to be 7 balls. Does it really make any difference? Yeah, it might be a bit embarrassing, your mates might wind you up, but it doesn't really change anything in the game. And unless you go along and clear everything else up, it hasn't really changed anything. So what you want to be doing in these situations is using the fact that they've only got a couple of balls left to your advantage and making their life difficult. So as the red player at the moment, all my balls are quite nicely spread out. So I could try and pot them all, but the black's not very good at the moment because it's tied up behind the yellows. So because the yellow player has got these balls down here, it's very easy for us to make it very difficult for the yellow player. All we've got to do is put the white ball up at this end of the table and they're not likely to pot anything. And their life will be difficult. Even if we don't get that far up, there's no pot on for them at the moment. So, as the red player, we might just look, okay, you might try and pot a ball first, or you might just look to play up to that end of the table. So let's not even try and pot anything. Let's just try and make things difficult. So I'm going to move this red out the way because it's a bit awkward where it is at the moment, and just travel up towards that end of the table. So I'm just going to clip off the red and travel up there. Now, I wasn't trying to pot that, but even if I hadn't, the yellow player here hasn't really got a shot on. They can't pot this yellow. So say that red hadn't dropped, just for the purpose of this demonstration, say that rattled and ended up over here. The yellow player's now got to do something for these balls. They might try and see if they can sort of get some sort of cannon, plant. No, not really done anything. And now they've opened up the red player's balls and opened up the black. So you're now in a much better position than you were before. You're still behind, they've still got less balls left than you, but they haven't won yet. And you can continue to make their life really difficult. If you wanted to, the balls are open enough that if you're a reasonable player, you should be able to clear these up, which is probably what I would do in this situation. But say you had one ball that was still in a bit of a tricky situation, like that. And you might not like balls along the cushion. What you could do at that point is just develop that ball a little bit. Move it over towards a pocket so it's easier to pot. And at the same time, we've got a snooker on the yellow player. So they've got to try and get out of a snooker. Okay, they get out of it. But now, your reds are a lot better. So actually, when you are behind, in terms of how many balls there are on the table, you're in a much stronger position. It's a lot easier to make things really difficult for your opponent. And you see it a lot in the game where a player will pot 5 or 6 balls, miss their last one, and then their life is made really difficult by their opponent if they're sensible. So just because you think you might be behind in terms of the balls on the table, that's not how it works at all. The important thing is the person who pots the black. So hopefully those are 5 things for you to look out for as a beginner. Obviously it takes a long time to learn all the aspects of the game, but if you can try and eradicate those things from your game as early as possible, then it'll set you well on the way to becoming a better player. Just a quick shout out to our sponsors, Tabletime Sports. They're an online retailer selling pool cues, balls, accessories and pool tables. There's a link to their website above, and if you purchase anything as a Pool School viewer, you'll grab an extra 5% off all purchases along with free delivery. And all you need to do is enter the code POOLSCHOOL5 in the discount section. If you want to see more practice routines and pool tutorials, then please remember to subscribe. And if you're interested in any of the equipment I use in this video, then there are links in the description below.